Hello, people, Mongoose again, and it's time for another episode of Why I Love, and it seems like ages since I've done one of these, so let's crack right on with Why I Love Oddworld Abes Oddysee on the PlayStation 1. It was released in September 1997 and developed by Oddworld inhabitants who are led by the legendary Lorne Lanning, who is basically like the figurehead, the brainchild behind the whole Oddworld series, and it was published by GT Interactive. Basically, the game's a cinematic platformer, and you take on the role of the lead character, Abe, who's a Mudokon slave at the Rupture Farms meat processing factory.
This is Rupture Farms. They say it's the biggest meat processing plant on Oddworld. I used to work here. Well, I was really a slave, like all the others.
Now, one night while on cleaning duty, Abe's unfortunate enough to stumble across the sinister plot of his glutton overlords.
I thought I had a good job, but that was before I knew how we'd make new and tasty.
And that plot basically is to harvest the Mudokon slaves and harvest their meat and basically eat it, because the Glutton are so greedy and they've basically eaten every food source. All food sources are running out and they need a new tasty treat. So Abe and all of his fellow slaves are on the menu.
This new kind of meat? It was us!
So now it's Abe's responsibility to escape this tragic fate and also escape the treacherous Rupture Farms, whilst rescuing as many of his fellow Mudokon slaves along the way as he can.
I just had to escape. I just had to be free. And I didn't even know I had a destiny. So, get me out of here!
Now, this seems like a standard video game plot, but what really drives it along is the dark comedic tone that the game takes. There's lots of very funny moments, a lot of social commentary about ourselves as humans being very greedy, you know, comparing us to the Glutton.
We used to make meat munchies. Until the meaches were through.
And just this really dark humour drives the game along, but also, you know, there's a lot of like really poignant moments too. It almost feels Discworld-esque, like the way it's portrayed, like as far as like the world, the characters, you know, the different like creatures that are in the world. It all just feels like it could have come from like a Terry Pratchett book to me. I don't know if it's only me that draws that comparison. That's the story, but how's the gameplay? Well, to put it bluntly, it's tough. But fair. Like I say, it's a cinematic platformer, very similar to your kind of flashbacks, or even going as far back as Prince of Persia. And basically, you know, you've got to precisely navigate your way through the level. So one moment you could be running from a terrifying creature. But at a moment's notice, you'll have to leap at the exact right time to go to a higher ledge. Or duck under an obstacle, or, you know, maybe pull a lever to, you know, open up a hole in the floor to send the enemy down. So with tight controls, some tricky puzzles and some great level design, the gameplay is absolutely fantastic. But the real standout part of the game, there's two standout features that I find, are the possession and the game speak abilities. Basically, possession works like this. You can possess different enemies in the game, mainly sligs, and basically this will give you the ability to possess the enemy and control them in the level. So you could go and hit a switch that you couldn't access before. You could use that slig who comes armed to take out other enemies that are in the game. But ultimately, you have to end your possession by just blowing up the slig in this amazing explosion of blood and bone and sinew, and it's really, really satisfying. In the game speak lets Abe communicate with other Mudokon slaves on the level, so basically you can help navigate them to like safety portals and that ultimate escape. Now this is implemented a lot better in the sequels, I will say, where you can talk to multiple Mudokon slaves and move groups of them. In this one you can only really move one at a time, so there can be a bit of back and forth, to-ing and fro-ing, but it doesn't really detract from the gameplay. Now like I say, the game can be difficult and you will be dying a lot, but that's no problem because it's got an instant respawn system where basically the last screen that you are on, you'll respawn there basically instantaneously, no loading or anything. So this gives you like a real drive to carry on and want to get past the, you know, like the difficult levels. And when you do get past like a really difficult part that you've been practicing over and over and over again, because there's a lot of trial and error, you feel like a real sense of accomplishment when you've done it, when you've gotten past that really difficult part of the game.
Wait.
Now, as I mentioned, level design is absolutely spot on, but the environments that you traverse are at times absolutely breathtaking. From the industrial rupture farms to some like deserts and really deserted areas to lush green like forests as well. So there's a real variation of the different environments, and to go along with that there's this fantastic soundtrack that really kind of accompanies the environments really, really well. So the sound design is fantastic and adds so much to the kind of isolated, desolate feel that you feel playing as Abe, and you really feel like at bottom of the food chain. And it can be quite like tranquil at times, and you know, melodic, and it can feel like really nice. But then at a moment's notice, you know, you could be traversing a terrible, hazardous level with loads of enemies in, and you'll get this, you know, dramatic musical cue. It'll start your, you know, adrenaline pumping and stuff, and yeah, it's just really good and just adds to the whole experience. So, you know, the fantastic environments coupled with the amazing sound design together is another like really standout part of the game. But for me, the best part of the game is Abe himself. He's just such a lovable character.
Hello,
Abe, you alright, mate?
Wait,
what am I waiting for? Oh, Jesus Christ, Abe, what the hell you been eating? And well, klutzy and a little dumb, like his heart and his spirit always like carries him through to do the right thing, and his back's always against the wall, he's always in danger, he's bottom of the food chain, you know, everything's out to kill him, but he keeps going, and that like makes him really endearing as a character. So with a great story, great characters, great gameplay, great sound design, great level design and everything else, I absolutely love Oddworld Abes Oddysee. I always used to like it, like in my teens when I used to play it back in the day, but I always found it really, really difficult. Going back to play it over the past year, I've found that it's fantastic. It still stands up really, really well today as far as its looks and gameplay go. A lot of games of this era were kind of going for this 3D polygon look, especially on PlayStation. I found that this being a side scroller, that isn't the case. You know, it stands up really, really well. The art style still looks fantastic, and it's just ultimately a fantastic story with a dark comedic turn, and it's just driven along by a fantastic, you know, character in Abe, and he's got like, you know, it just has some really poignant moments as well, some really dark funny moments and some really, you know, action-packed moments. So the game has everything. Just it's packed. It's an absolute classic, and it's Oddworld Abes Oddysee, and I absolutely love it. That's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll leave you like I always do and say thank you very much for watching. Hopefully I'll catch you next time. Bye.